This is the Snodgrass podcast. Welcome back. Super excited for you guys to join me today. Got a great guest, Rod Khleif, going to join us. But go over to YouTube and subscribe to the Snodgrass channel and leave a comment because I'm going to get back to you, John, right now, as soon as you leave that comment. Today, guys, Rod Khleif. Rod Khleif is a real estate investor, mentor, coach, founder, and host of the Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing. He is a philanthropist. He founded Tiny Hands Foundation, which has fed and benefited more than 75,000 kids in the last 20 years through holiday meals and backpacks and teddy bears and police cars. He's going to talk about that today. He's going to talk a lot about mindset and how he lost $50 million in 2008, bounced back, and he does millions of dollars to real estate. But it's really all about the mindset and taking action, and he's going to dive into that today. He's a great guest. Welcome to the show, my friend, Rod Khleif. What's going on, Rod?
Hey, it's good to see you, brother. Let's have some fun today.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to this. I think I interviewed you on a real estate when I was doing the Simple Wholesaling podcast. This was like 4 years ago, and I just got to tell you, man, I got a lot of great feedback from that. I love your story. You've been doing real estate for, I don't know, how long, Rod? I don't
This is going to date me ugly. Let's see, since I was 18, so we're talking 43 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of experience. I don't know, but
well, yeah. Ups and downs. They're not all ups, I will tell you. So, yeah.
Man, that's awesome. I know that you have been probably one of the most successful real estate investors getting into the multifamily space too. Mentor, coach, speaker, leader. You do events all over the country. I know you got an event coming up here soon about multifamily, but I always like to start off with this question, and that is this: who is Rod Khleif?
Who is Rod Khleif? Well, I'm going to answer that a couple different ways. One, of course, I'm a husband to an amazingly beautiful, spectacularly physically beautiful and also spiritually beautiful woman. I'm a father. I'm a coach. I like to consider myself a philanthropist. But I will tell you, let me answer it differently than I'm sure any guest ever has on your show, because one of the things that I do at my live events is I have my participants create an identity statement, and they use the words "I am," because anything you put the words "I am" in front of is an identity statement. There's no greater force in the human really psychology than the need to be consistent with how we state we are, who we state we are. And so my identity statement is I, Rod Khleif, am a magnificent, amazing. Well, let me actually pre-frame this because this is going to sound like ego, guys, but it's not ego. This is aspirational. So please know that. Okay. So let me start over. So I, Rod Khleif, am a magnificent, amazing, passionate gift from God. I'm an incredible father. I'm an inspiring leader. I'm a loving billionaire, and I'm an amazing husband that puts smiles on the faces of children, inspires others to excellence, and rocks the world.
Wow.
I have encountered that thousands of times, so much that it gets into the fiber of my being. And guys, when you do that, that's how powerful and effective this is. And so I've got I am statements on the wall in front of me here. I've got I am success. I am the best in the world at what I do. Again, aspirational, not ego. I am a business genius. These are things that I want to aspire to be. Yeah, I am focus, I am determination, I'm execution, I'm health and energy. So I have these all around me in my offices, in my exercise room, and I incant these things at the top of my lungs. And people, it's really funny at my live events, my kids help me there, and people come up to him and ask him, does he really do that shit? Yeah, he really does that shit. But hey, if you haven't heard my story, I made and lost $50 million in 2008. And it was this stuff, this psychology, this mindset that caused me to be able to do that. It was focusing on what I want and getting associated with the identity that I want for myself instead of, making a story. People all have stories instead of having a story that, I lost 50 million bucks. Woe was me. And so that's why, I have my students at my events do that identity piece, because that, when you declare something like that, it pulls you into it. So anyway, long answer, but that's who I am.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I started doing that recently and just kind of putting it on the bathroom mirror. I'm a kingdom, I'm a hero husband, incredible father. So that is so important. And I wasn't doing that before. Like, were you doing that before 2008 when you lost everything? Or is that just something that you've just been doing all your life?
I was lucky. Well, no. Actually, I got a lot of this from Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is one of my mentors. I spent 20 years following him around the planet. I need to give him credit because, a lot of what I've gotten in that realm, in the emotional, psychological, self-improvement realm, has been from him and previous mentors as well. But yeah, that I am statement is something that he's known for and helped with for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know most business podcasts you're probably on, you have been so successful. Like I said, you coach all around the nation, around the world about real estate multifamily. You've built millions of dollars business. I mean, we can definitely go into all of those numbers, but this podcast is focused a little bit different. It's focused a lot about purpose. We've talked about before the show about significance. And so a lot of times success gives you this platform, right? So I never want to discount success, because obviously you're on this podcast for a reason. A lot of it is because you've been very, very successful at what you've done. And the question I want to ask is, because you're also a philanthropist, and how have you been able to use the platform of success to impact people's lives and use it,
Okay. Can I pivot on that and
Yeah.
answer the question a little bit differently? Because you talk about success, and a lot of people that want success, because I know you've got people listening to your show, watching your show, that have blood dripping from their teeth. They want this so freaking bad. And but there are a lot of definitions for success. And so let me speak to success for a moment, and then we'll talk about giving back, if you don't mind. So firstly, we've been taught to achieve to be successful. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is to achieve to be successful, but then achieve to be happy. Success, that success brings happiness. And I'm going to tell you, as it relates to philanthropy, if you start, and I'm bouncing around a little bit here because I got ahead of myself with that statement, but if you are giving back in any fashion, you're happily achieving. And I'll give you a story as to how that happened in my life. But back to success for a minute. Everybody thinks that, they see these examples of success. They hear them on the podcast. And as I was telling you before we started recording, I've built 27 businesses, and I don't call my failures. I call them seminars. And I want to tell you, out of those 27 businesses, several have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Most have been spectacular, flaming seminars. We fail our way to success. And so, those of you, you see the success, but you don't see like a duck on the water floating around. You don't see that furious paddling underneath the water. You don't see the setbacks. And so, I want you to recognize, some of you listening might be saying, I'm afraid of failure, or I'm afraid of being embarrassed or humiliated, or whatever. We all have these different stories that we tell ourselves. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough. I'm not, we have these stories, but I'm here to tell you that don't fear failure. Fear being in the same place you are a year from now that you are right now, unless you freaking love where you are right now, right? So, fear regret much more than failure, and recognize that it's never a failure unless you don't get back up, or you don't get the lesson. That's when it's a failure. And otherwise, it's truly a learning experience. I met the billionaire owner of Spanx, the women's undergarments, Sarah Blakely, beautiful human being. I met her at a mastermind. I know we met at a mastermind as well. This was Digital Marketers Mastermind. And she told me that her dad used to tell her and her brother once a week, what have you failed at this week? Isn't that an awesome freaking question to ask your kids, to pre-frame them not to fear failure? So ask yourself that failure, my friends. Okay. Don't fear failure. So that, I just want to talk about success for a minute, because like I said, don't assume it's a straight line. Number one, don't assume you're not going to have setbacks and feedback. Recognizing that that's what they are. Setbacks and failures are feedback. Okay. And so anyway, back to philanthropy. So, I tell the story how I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and but I knew I wanted to live on the beach, and there's no beach in Denver. And how 20 years later, I ultimately built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot, I call it testament to my ego, because that's really what it was. And I worked for this thing for 20 freaking years. 2 months after I moved in, okay? Now, just to describe this house, giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get into the pool. Pool was in magazines. Big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house, elevator, wine cellar. I owned the beach on one side. It was called a Gulf to Bay. On the back side, I had my boat houses. So it was just spectacular. I'll finish with this. On the second floor, there was a custom built aquariums. It cost me about $180,000, if I recall. So that gives you an idea of the house. Well, anyway, 2 months after I move in, I'm floating in the pool. Look, and again, I worked for this for 20 years. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. Pool's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting. And I'm looking up at this, like I said, testament to my ego. And I got depressed. And I don't mean just a little bummed. I mean, I was really freaking bummed. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, I had the Mercedes in the garage. I had the Maserati in the garage. I mean, I had, the boats, the jet skis, the house, the beautiful wife. And I was depressed. And when I look back on it, Brett, I realized there were several things happening. One is you should never achieve a big goal like I had without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for the future. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. Secondly, I had been totally focused on Rod. I had to prove to the world I was good enough. That's, embarrassing to admit, but that's the truth of it. And so, I'd been told, Rod, show the world I matter. And I'll circle back to that in just a second. But the third thing was happiness does not come from the goals. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day he buys the boat and the day he or she sells the boat. Well, it's the truth. And goals, you need the goals. And one of the first things we do at my boot camps is an hour and 15-minute goal setting session. And if you've ever been to one of my boot camps, that's what we do. And it's goal setting on steroids, because it's so freaking important. In 2008, like I said, I lost $50 million and reassociating with my goals and what I wanted was how I made that happen. And I mean, to get back to the success that I have today, how I got back. And so you need the goals, but it's never about the goals. It's about who you become and your growth. Happiness comes from growth and progress. Okay. But you need to acknowledge that growth and progress. So, I teach my students, every week, once a week, look back at the previous week and pat yourself on the back, regardless of how small that progress was. Give yourself credit, because again, it's never about the goals. But if you're acknowledging the progress and the growth, even if you have a setback or you have a failure, you're still happy because you're growing and progressing. So that was the dynamic. But back to me being a little bit narcissistic, focused on me, prove to the world I'm good enough. So that's the year I went and saw Tony Robbins, because I went and bought some books. I bought, Dale Carnegie, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, some of these self-improvement books. So I'm like, I got to get back. I mean, I can't. I don't want to go lay on a couch and talk about how miserable my life is. I need to get this back. That's just how I roll. And so, one of them was Tony's books, and I went and saw him live, and I saw that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else instead of focusing on Rod. And so I called my brother, and I was living in Florida, but I was going back to Denver for Thanksgiving, where I'm from, or where I spent 30 years. And so I called him. I said, hey, let's feed 5 families. And for Thanksgiving. And so we went to his church, found out 5 families that really needed help. And we went out and had a blast buying food and turkeys and toys for the kids, the ones that had kids. And the third family changed my life, Brett. Walk up to this row house, which is one of these piece of crap, old 1800s built properties where you walk into it's like a fourplex, but they're next to each other. You walk into the living room, you walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which has the bathroom on it, off of it. So it's not even a 1 bedroom. It's a shitty 1 bedroom. And there was a lady in there with 5 kids. So she comes out on the porch. She sees all the stuff that we bought, and the frozen turkey and the roasting pan and the toys, and she starts crying. Her kids come out. The older ones start crying. I start crying. And I'm freaking hooked. And I'm blessed to say in the last 20 plus years, we've fed over 100,000 kids here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida, and Tampa as well. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to local kids. Astounding. We live in the greatest country on earth, and kids don't have the supplies they need for school. I've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to put in their vehicles. So, if they encounter a child that needs to be comforted, they can hand them a little teddy bear. And I'm not saying this to brag, guys. Please know this, okay? I want to inspire you because, like I said, I know some of you are out there, blood dripping from your teeth. You want success. You want that Lamborghini or that Ferrari, all that Rolls Royce, all the stupid shit that I've had that I thought was important at one time. And it's okay for you to want it and get it. And the watches, I've got a few $100,000 worth of watches, all that crap that you think is important. And that's okay. Because if that propels you and gives you what Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, calls a burning desire, great, because that's what you got to have to get up early, to stay up late, to work Saturdays, to, grind for a few years like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. So that's great, whatever it is that you want. But the point is, it's okay to want that and achieve that. But remember, don't achieve to be happy. Happily achieve. And you do that. So whatever, even if you say, yeah, I'll do it when I have money, big mistake. Find a cause that you're interested in right now. Kids, the elderly, the environment, animals, whatever. And something that you're passionate about, and give back to that right now. I don't care if you haven't got a what to piss in. You find something, and even if it's just your time. Why? Because you'll be happily achieving. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you, the success is going to come faster. Now, you don't do it for that reason, but I promise you that it comes faster. And so please, it took me, I had to be 40 to get that memo. You don't need to wait that long. Okay. And so anyway, long answer, but there you go.
No, I love that. I just want to talk about the organization real quick, because I was researching in the website Tiny Hands Foundation, again, charity, thousands of kids fed over the holidays, backpacks filled with supplies. And I love that the giving a teddy bear inside the police cars. When a child has a traumatic event, they are comforted, right?
It's funny. I was watching, this has been a couple of years, but I was reading the Sarasota Herald Tribune, and I'd heard that this kid, they'd found this toddler on a big busy road here, Bee Ridge Road, 6-lane road, and they didn't know who his parents were. Now they found the parents a couple hours later, and they got a picture of this kid with one of our teddy bears. So that was really validating, because we don't get a lot of validation on that part of what we do. So that was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
So what did that do to Rod? I mean, so basically you started giving back, you have this organization now, and you started to focus on someone other than Rod. What did that kind of do for you? You've been doing it for 20
Well, I mean, see, Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment, where achievement really is a science. I mean, if you've got the mechanics, like if you want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, come spend 3 days with me. I mean, it's a science. There's a map. There's a blueprint. I've got an event coming up December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. In Orlando. I was supposed to have 800 people in Orlando, May of 2020, and we all know what happened with that. And I was freaking out. So I built a video studio here at my compound, and we did virtual, and we've had thousands of people doing virtual, but we're having a live event for the first time since then, this December, which I'm super excited about. We've already sold hundreds of tickets. It's going to be a big one. And if you want to learn multifamily, I'll give your listeners a code here where they can come for $197, okay, for 3 days. And this is not some big freaking sales pitch. I will tell you, full disclosure, I talk about my coaching for about 45 minutes. That's it. The rest of it is full on training, and you're learning every aspect of multifamily real estate. And so if you have any interest in that, for God's sakes, come spend 3 days with me. I promise you'll be glad you did. I've never had a complaint. Thousands of attendees that complain. Only complaint I've got is, stupid shit like the room's too cold, or they didn't like the food or something, but the content is off the hook. And so if you're interested, text RodinOrlando as one word, RodinOrlando. Text that to 72345. Again, RodinOrlando to 72345, or just go to RodinOrlando.com. If you go to the bottom of that website, you'll see the hundreds and hundreds of testimonials of people unsolicited that talk about the event. And so, because obviously I teach how to buy real estate, but I also teach the mindset stuff, the goal setting. I told you about the identity statement. I've never had the opportunity to do that on an interview before and been asked that question. So that was a real treat for me. But, so because you got to take action with what you learn. So this is a long answer to your question, Brett, but you guys on iTunes can't see this, but I'm going behind my green screen, and Brett, you can see some of the hundreds of thank you cards. You can't see the whole wall behind me is covered with thank you cards. You asked me why I do what I do. And please know, this is not ego again, but when I tell you that I get love an average of 10 times a day, I'm not exaggerating. I got a gift basket today. I get cards, I get emails, I get DMs every single day, people whose lives have been impacted. The students that in my coaching program now own 46,000 units, and I've been teaching a whopping 3.5 years. So I'm really freaking proud of that. Okay. And so that's what we know of. It's probably double that number if you count the boot camp attendees. So, you asked me why I do what I do. I mean, I'm addicted, man. I mean, what's not to, when you get love every day of somebody telling you change their life, and their, not just their financial life, but their emotional well-being, their drive, their relationships with their family. Most of my students have some sort of philanthropic angle. They give back because they recognize that power moves to those who serve. And so, there's my answer. I mean, I freaking love what I'm doing now. That's why my wife puts up with me. I'm shooting video and photos this Sunday, day after tomorrow, or the day after that, because that's the only time we have time to do it. So that's why she puts up with it, because she knows I'm so passionate and I love it so much.
No, that's awesome. So you got an event in Orlando, right? $197. Text RodinOrlando.
Yeah. I forgot to give the code. To get that $197, use the code RodFriend. Okay. because it's double that right now. But Rod Friend, almost double that. Use the code RodFriend. If you text RodinOrlando, one word, 72345, and then use the code RodFriend, you can come for $197. So it's kind of a duh. Seriously, if you're interested about this in this business at all. And the networking is off the chain. And I've got probably 3 billion represented by the panelists that answer your questions. I go through every aspect of the business, finding deals, evaluating deals, financing deals, raising money for deals, the property management, and of course the mindset. So you actually take action with what you learn.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's a great deal, guys. Number one.
Thanks.
So text that, use the code RodFriend. We're going to put that in our show notes too on our YouTube channel, on the Brett Snodgrass YouTube channel. So check that out. Rod, so we talked about the Tiny Hands Foundation. Guys, check that out if you're interested in that. And again,
if you want it, $22 feeds the family. I cover all the operational expenses and a whole lot more. So every dime goes to the food. I used to pay for this myself. Through 2008, when I crashed, in 2007, I fed 1,500 families myself. It's $50,000 out of my pocket. But then my world crumbled. And so I formed this foundation, and it's a 501c3 nonprofit, and I take donations now, but I still cover all the operational expenses and then some. And so if you're interested in donating, text Tiny Hands to 72345. $22 feeds a family. I'm grateful for your help. And it's not like some big organization charity where 30% gets spent on travel and stuff for the owners. This is every dime goes to this stuff. So anyway, Tiny Hands to 72345.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Sounds good. Rod, I want to ask you this question. So again, you mentor, you coach, you speak a lot. And the one question I ask is, where do people get stuck? Because obviously people that come to your seminars, they don't, most of them probably don't take action, aren't successful. But what's like the most common thing that you see in the everyday person get stuck?
Sure. Well, what it is the first thing I would say is the lack of a burning desire. They don't want it bad enough, which is why I spend an hour and 15 minutes. And by the way, let me give another gift to your listeners. If you're not interested in multifamily, absolutely cool. I did a goal setting workshop on January 2nd of this year on my Rod Khleif official Facebook page. I've got 2 Facebook pages. The official one I did on January 2nd. Year before I did it on January 1st, but I do music. I have a free download guide, goal setting guide that you get when you go there, that you download. It's free. And if you ping me on any social channel, I'm extremely active. I have a team that helps me. I'm even on freaking TikTok now. I had a video go viral, 280,000 views recently. I couldn't even spell TikTok a month ago, but I'm on every channel. So if you ping me, I will send you the link to that. So even if you're not interested in multifamily, let me help you get aligned on your goals and get you juiced, because there's music and there's a guide. And if you and your spouse watch this, you'll be aligned, you'll be headed the same direction together. It's a really powerful exercise that you'll get a ton of value from. I promise you, you'll be grateful. But that's why they get stuck. They don't have that burning desire. They don't want it bad enough. That's number one. And then the second thing is fear. And fear locks people up, and fear of failure, and so, what is fear? F everything and run. What it should be is face everything and rise. And so you've got to push through it. And it's kind of counterintuitive, but action mitigates fear. So you've just got to take that first step. That first step's the hardest. We call it the law of the first deal. It's the hardest deal. It takes the longest. It's the most stressful. But once it's done, I see it with my students. Might take them 6, 8 months, even a year to get their first deal. Next thing I know, they have 5 or 6. I'm like, what the hell happened? Well, they got that first deal done. They realized no big deal. Now they're moving forward. So fear is a big one. And the third one, let me give you the top 3. One is they don't want it bad enough, burning desire. Second is fear, or limiting beliefs as well. Okay, limiting beliefs. Like my story was, how can I show them I'm good enough? That was my story. I used to ask myself that question, which of course presupposed that I wasn't good enough. But that question actually was a double-edged sword. Cost me my first family because I was so focused on success, but it also caused the success because I had to show them I was good enough. But a lot of people have disempowering limiting beliefs, and that really hold them back. I'm not smart enough. And they really become stories. Like I said, I'm not smart enough. I'm not old enough. I don't have enough money. I'm too young. And so be careful if you're listening and you recognize that you might be telling yourself a story. You change your story, you change your life. Okay. So those are the top 3, buddy.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. So guys checking in, and burning desire, I think is something, again, like Rod, I just want to like hit home on that, because sometimes people say, well, you either got it or you do not. And is that something that you can, create?
You got to want it. Okay. And there's nothing you can't do, be, or have in this world. Don't tell me there's nothing. If you live in the United States, other parts of the country, maybe it's hard. Certainly it's harder. And I've got students in Turkey and Israel and Canada, all over the world, Mexico. But in the United States specifically, there is nothing you can't do, be, or have, even if you start with nothing. So don't tell me your story. Okay. Don't tell me your excuse, because there are none. And even if you've got physical limitations, there's nothing you can't do, be, or have, with very few exceptions. Okay. So, but you got to want it. So you got to really tap into what it is that you want. And, for me at one time, it was these, it was this stupid stuff. Like I talked about, the cars, I've owned them all, the Maserati, the Lamborghini, the Rolls, the Bentley. I thought that was important. Having that big house on the beach. I lost that house and all the craziness. And it's kind of funny. I live in this compound. It's actually, the picture you see behind me is my backyard. I've got 6 buildings and beautiful big main house and a guest house on the water. My daughter's in there right now for a short while. I've got a video studio. I've got an exercise facility, 5 cars of garages, and you name it. And because God's got a sense of humor, my old house that I was talking about is right across the bay here from where I can see it right out my backyard. But, you've got to figure out what juices you. Maybe it's physical things or things. Maybe it's cash in the bank. Maybe it's a cash flow number. Maybe it's being able to retire your spouse or put your kids through college. Whatever it is, you've got to tap into that, which is why my goal setting is so freaking important, because that is the number one hurdle. So, my events, we talk about all these things, these holdbacks, like, creating that burning desire, like fear. I spent a time talking about fear and limiting beliefs and how to push through those, like creating an identity for yourself. So you own, who you aspire to be. So it pulls you into it. These are the sorts of exercises that we do so that you take freaking action, because, that's the biggest thing is people get, especially analytical people. Okay. And who you are. You got to check off every freaking box before you take action. And they're my most successful students. Man, they're the most hardest to get to actually freaking pull the trigger to come work with us, so we can, push them through as fast as possible. But yeah, there you go.
I love that. Rod, thank you so much. I always ask this question on every show, almost every show, but you've been doing this for a while, been in real estate 40 plus years. You're still going strong, coaching, mentoring, buying deals, doing hundreds of, millions of dollars, living an amazing home, have an amazing family. But, when your life is at the end, what do you want the summary to be about Rod?
Oh, buddy, I showed you on the wall behind me, man. It's the people I've impacted. It's the lives I've changed, helped change. It's the people I've motivated. It's the legacy I leave for my kids and my bride. It's to have lived with passion. That's a Tony Robbins quote, to have lived with passion. And, they asked, there was this nurse in Australia, who's a hospice nurse. Her name is Bronnie Ware. And so she took care of people at the end of their lives. And she asked him a question, and that question was, "Do you have any regrets?" And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived. Living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. Guys, for God's sakes, come go through my goal setting, come to my boot camp, do something to get fired up, because I can't think of anything worse than that, to die with regret like that. And it's common. I mean, she found that was the most common thing. So, don't fear failure, fear that.
I love that. And that's a good end to this show with Rod Khleif. Thanks, Rod, so much. Again, guys, go text 72345 RodinOrlando. Use the code word RodFriend. Get that $197. And the dates of that is December 3rd,
4th, and 5th. Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. Check that out, guys. Rod, I like to end with a little fire round. So I got 4 questions for you here. Favorite book recently read? Favorite book?
Let me give you several because my love language is gifts. There's the 5 Love Languages is a book. And in fact, I had the author on my show. It was a real treat for me because I've given away thousands of copies of his book. So that's one for sure, because if you love anybody, you need to give them love in the way they feel it. But I give my students books almost every month. So here's some of the books I give them. First one is Turning Pro. Stephen Pressman, making the decision to become a professional and no longer be an amateur. Another one is The Slight Edge. Those little decisions you make every day that traject your life up or down. They're not impactful the day you make them, but diet is a great example of this, but they bring your life up or down. Gary Keller's The One Thing. I had his co-author on the show. The Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod. I've got students that have done that for years. I had him on the show as well. So those there's several. Those are all fantastic.
I love that. I had Dr. Gary Chapman on the show as well.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I love that book.
Great
Five
guy.
Love Languages. Sounds good. Number 2, favorite podcast. Do you have one?
I listen to Tim Ferriss. I get excited. Because I'm at 11 million plus downloads on my podcast. He gets that a week, I think, and what he does is he interviews the great, the best of the best in every walk of life and then deconstructs how they got there. And, what's interesting is I talk about focus as being one of the key factors to success. And I started to hear a pattern on his podcast is that all of his guests meditate. That's what we call a clue, my friends. Okay. Because what does meditation enhance? Focus. And these are the best athletes, the best actors, the best, CEOs, Ray Dalio, billionaires. I mean, the best of the best in everything. Anyway, so there you go.
All right. Sounds good. How do you relax?
I love movies and I'm a voracious reader. I've got thousands and thousands of books.
Sounds good. Last one, favorite deal you've done?
Oh gosh. Oh God. I wouldn't even know where to start there, man. I mean, we just closed on a 296 unit asset in San Antonio 2 weeks ago. Screaming deal. But I've got so many I wouldn't even know where to start, buddy. That one will, be extremely lucrative. Yeah.
Yeah. No, sounds good, man. Sounds good. Well, that's the end of this Brett Snodgrass podcast with Rod Khleif. Thank you so much, Rod, for being on our show today.
Thanks for having me, brothers. Great to see you.
Thank you so much for checking out the Brett Snodgrass channel. If you like this video, please slam on that like button. And if you really like it, then subscribe to our channel here. And remember to leave us a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to all the comments. Thank you guys so much. This is why I do what I do. Every single week, I come out with content that focuses on success, freedom, and living out your purpose. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.